Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi shir.
Shalom and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, Brachos Daf Membeis, who right on top of the Amud says the Gemara. Rav Huna achal telesa rifti. Rav Huna ate 13 loaves of bread. We're not speaking about ordinary bread, but rather pas haba bekisnin. These types of baked goods which are generally filled with seasoning and nuts, and they're generally meant to be eaten as a snack. He ate 13 of these loaves. And how large were these loaves? B'nei tlasa bekava. Each one was a third of a kav. 3 of them comprised a kav. B'nei tlasa bekava. So he ate 13 loaves of pasava bekisnin. Each one was a third of a kav. Nevertheless, b'lei baruch, he did not make a birchas hamazon. He didn't consider it to be a meal that requires birchas hamazon. Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman told him, Adi kafna, this amount to eat pas haba bekisnin in this quantity, this is meant to satiate one's hunger. Adi kafna, it's meant for hunger. This is a real bona fide meal and requires a birchas hamazon. Ella, rather the rule is, if you're only eating a little bit of the pas haba bekisnin, yes, certainly that's considered to be a snack, on which you make a mezainis and alamechia. But if you eat a large amount, the amount that is equal shekol shachirim koimal of suda, the amount, the quantity that others generally would establish their meal on it, it is significant enough. It is a large amount that constitutes a kviya suda, an established meal. In that case, even if it's possible bekisnin, tzarich levarich, one must make a bracha of birchas hamazon, since this is now considered to be his bread. He elevated its status. He gave it a din of a genuine bread, and the proper bracha is hamaitzi and birchas hamazon. Continues the Gemara with the story. Rav Yehuda made a match for his son, Rav Yehuda Rachaviva, in the home of Rav Yehuda Rachaviva with his daughter. Aisu kamayu pasaba bekisnin. So they served the people there this type of snacky bread, pasaba bekisnin. Ki asa, when Rav Yehuda came by, shaminu dekom varcha hamaitzi, he noticed, he heard that they were saying hamaitzi on this bread instead of mezainis. So he was surprised. Amar lahu, my tzitzi deko shamana. What is this tzitzi, this hamaitzi sound that I'm hearing? Duma hamaitzi lechem and haaretz kam v'rachisu. Is this tzitzi coming from the word hamaitzi? Are you indeed making a bracha of hamaitzi on pasaba bekisnin? How can that be? Relates. They responded, yes we are. The son, as we learned, Rav Muna Omar Mishra Rav Yehuda. Pasaba bekisnin mevachan lehamaitzi. The proper bracha on pasaba bekisnin, even on this snacky bread, on this semi bread, is hamaitzi. V'amar Shmuel Allah Rav Muna. Indeed, Allah follows this opinion. Amar lahu, so Rav Yehuda responded, no. Ein Allah Rav Muna itmar. We learned just the opposite, that the halacha is not like Rav Huna. The proper bracha on pasaba bekisnin is not hamaitzi. Relates, so they responded, they didn't give up. They responded, didn't you, our master, didn't you teach us the name of Shmuel? That lachmaniyos, these rolls which are pasaba bekisnin, Marvin ben, we can use it for erev chatzeros, which requires true bread, and we can make the proper brachas on maitzi. So how can you say otherwise? So he said, Shani Hasam, there is different. You know what I meant? I meant in a specific case, the kava sedasi alayu. When one indeed establishes his meal on this bread, and he elevates it to the status of true bread, it gives it a significance. And in that case, it has the halacha of lechem. But in the event that one is merely eating it as a snack and he hasn't established his meal on it, it is not considered to be genuine bread, and certainly does not require hamaitzi. Continues the Gemara with another story. Rav Papa ikla l'rei Rav Huna, buried Rav Nasan. Rav Papa came, visited the home of Rav Huna, buried Rav Nasan. Basa the garments to the sayu, after they finished their meal, they completed eating. Aisu l'kamayu midi l'meichal. They brought them another item of food to eat. Shakal Rav Papa v'ka'achal. Rav Papa took it and he ate. Amri lei. So they told him, his host told him, Lei savar lamar Gomar asam lechel. Do you not hold of the halacha that once one completes his meal, he terminates his suda, you're not allowed to eat anymore. You're already preparing yourself for birchas hamazon, and you must bench. You might make birchas hamazon, Afterwards, you can choose to eat if you decide to, but before Brachos Hamazon, one may not make a hefsek, he may not interrupt anymore. Once you've terminated your Suda, you finished eating, you must proceed to Brachos Hamazon. Amar Lahu, so he told them, you're making a mistake. Silek Itmar. The determinant here is not whether one completed his meal, whether he finished eating, but rather Silek Itmar. We learned that the siluk is required. Once they remove the bread, they remove the food from the table. In that case, that is considered to be a termination of the Suda, and one must proceed to Brachos Hamazon. But merely finishing, completing the eating, that is not considered to be a determinant factor here. Therefore, in this case, even though I finished eating, since they weren't misalik, they haven't removed the food completely, I'm allowed to continue eating. Continues the Gemara, Rav Zera, Ikul Vesh Galusa. They came to visit the home of Vesh Galusa. Basal the Saliku Takam Kamayu. Once they removed their tables, in the old days they had an individual table per person, so they removed the table. Afterwards, they arrived a cooked dish of meat from the Rish Galusa's kitchen. So now they already finished eating, they had removed their table entirely, and a new dish arrives. What are they meant to do? Are they allowed to eat it or not? Rava ate, Rav Zera didn't. Rav Zera turns to Rav and he said, do you not hold of the halacha? That's siluk asam lech. Once they remove the food, and certainly in our case they remove the table, one must proceed to Brachos Hamazon. He's not allowed to eat anymore. Amar lei. So Rava said, yes, indeed, ordinarily that is true. When they are mesalik, one must proceed to Brachos Hamazon. But in this case, we're not at home. We're guests of the Rish Galusa. We're relying on their intentions, on their plans. If they decide to send us more food, that's fine. That indicates that we're still in the middle of our Suda. Anan, we, ataka on the table. The Rish Galusa samchinan. We're relying on their table, on their menu. And therefore, even though we finished eating, nevertheless, since they sent us more food, so we follow their das, their machshava, their plans, and our meal is not considered to be terminated, and therefore we can continue eating. Taisus points out a similar halacha regarding Pesach at night. Should one forget to eat afikoimon, and he's already at the end of the meal, and he announces, okay, we're going to bench. So Taisus says a chiddush. He's allowed to go back and eat afikoimon. Why? Because on Pesach at night by the Seder, Anan, we ataka d'rachmana samchinan. We're reliant on Hashem's table. We're by Hashem's meal. And therefore, since it is a mitzvah to eat afikoimon, and he hasn't done so yet, therefore he's considered to be still in the middle of his meal. He may eat it afikoimon and then proceed to bench. Amar Rav, although we learned that siluk, removal of the food, is considered to be a termination of the meal, one is required to make Brachos Hamazon. Haragel b'shemen, if one is accustomed to anoint his hands with oil before Brachos Hamazon, so prior to doing so, it is still considered to be in the middle of his meal. Shemen me'akvay, shemen holds back the end of the meal, meaning as long as he hasn't used the shemen yet, he may still eat even before benching. So the end point of the meal, in the case where one is accustomed to anointing himself with shemen, is the anointment of the shemen. But prior to that, he may still eat. Amar Rav Ashi, ki avine be'Rav Kahana. When I was Rav Kahana, he told us the same thing. Amar lan kigoyin anan. For instance, us, the Regalinim b'mishcha, we're accustomed to using this mishcha, this oil. Mishcha ma'akfelon, the oil holds back the end from the meal. Meaning, as long as he hasn't yet used the oil, the meal is not considered to be completely terminated, and is not considered to be preparing himself for Brachos Hamazon yet, and he may continue eating. Concludes the Gemara, although we have various stages in the Gemara, some say Gamar, when he finishes eating, that is considered to be a completion. Some say he needs silek to remove the food, and finally the anointment of the oil. These are the determinants, as the Gemara knows. The final halacha doesn't follow any of these opinions. What is the determinant? Ella, but rather as follows. There are 3 items that need to join each other. Teichev l'smicha shchita. Smicha, leaning on the behema, the mitzvah of smicha, must be done joined to the shchita, immediately preceding the shchita. One is not meant to make a hefsek interruption between the two. That is the first item of tkifa. The second item of Tkifa of joining is Tekev L'Gula Tefillah. As we know, we learned many times. One is meant to join Geula, the bracha following Krishma, which discusses the redemption of Mitzrayim. One is meant to do it immediately, in close proximity to Tefillah Tishman Esrei. Tekev L'Geula Tefillah. And finally, Tekev L'Ntilas Yadayim Bracha. Ntilas Yadayim here is referring to the brachas, to the Mayim Achronim, which one washes himself prior to benching. Tekev L'Ntilas Yadayim Bracha. One is meant to make a Brachos Hamazon immediately following Ntilas Yadayim, the Mayim Achronim water, without any hefsek, without any interruption. So that determines Mayim Achronim, Ntilas Yadayim, is considered to be the preparation for benching. Anything before that is not considered to be a full completion and termination of the meal and a preparation for a beginning of the process of Brachos Hamazon. So, if one even finished his meal completely, he removed the food. He even perhaps anointed his fingers with the shemen. Nevertheless, he may continue eating if he decides to do so. It's not considered to be the beginning of the process of Brachos Hamazon unless he is noitel yodav for Mayim Achronim. Tais points out that not just Mayim Achronim, but Hu Adin, Tais says, Im Omar, if he says, Havlon v'nivrach, come, let's go bench. So making this declaration, this announcement, is also considered to be a preparation, a beginning of the Brachos Hamazon process. Says the Gemara, okay, we have three items that the concept of takef, of immediacy, is applied to them. We have another one. Amar Abaye, Afanal Noimar, we will add another one. Takef l'Talmid Chacham Bracha. Close, immediately, upon one's hosting a Talmid Chacham in his home, he receives bracha. A person receives blessing from Hashem on account of him tending to the needs of Talmid Chacham and hosting him in his home. Shenemar, as it says, Vayivarcheni Hashem Glolecha. This is Lavan speaking about Yaakov Avinu. Hashem blessed me, gave me bracha in abundance on account of your presence. So we see that if one hosts a Talmid Chacham, Rashi says he's makriva yelav, he's ma'archa bebeisai, he brings him close, he hosts him, he earns a bracha as a result. Some say from a different source, Shenamar, as it says, Vayivarach Hashem is Beis HaMitzri. This is referring to Beitifar. Hashem blessed the home of the Egyptian, Beglal Yosef, on account of Yosef's presence. So we see that Tekef, Le Talmid Chachamim, bracha. So, in conclusion, at what point may one not eat anymore, but rather he must proceed to Brachos Hamazon? So the Gemara initially said Gomar, completing the eating process, the eating experience. Then the Gemara said, no, Silik, you must remove the food entirely. Then the Gemara said, if we're accustomed to using the shemen constitutes the end point of the meal and the beginning of the Brachos Hamazon. The Gemara's final conclusion was, none of the above determines, but rather, Mayim Achronim. According to Tosfos, not just Mayim Achronim, but even if one declares, Havlan v'nivrach, come, let's go, make Brachos Hamazon, that is already considered the beginning of the process of Brachos Hamazon, which prohibits one from eating anymore. Says the Mishnah, Birech ala yayin shel fnei hamazon, one who makes a bracha on the wine prior to his meal. Rashi explains, their custom was to drink wine and to eat papiros, these types of appetizers, supplements, before the main meal. Then, even following the meal, they would do the same thing again. They would drink wine again, and they would have these papiros, these additives, these supplements, these desserts, so to speak. They were made of different types of items, fish, pargios, bird's meat, etc. So these are appetizers, additives, supplements to the main integral portion of the meal. Says the Mishnah, if one makes a bracha when he is served the wine prior to the meal, berech al yayin shelefnei hamazon, the bracha of hagafen on that wine is pater sayayin shlach hamazon, will cover the wine that he will drink after the meal is over. Rashi points out, of course, we're speaking about before Brachos Hamazon, but it's after the main portion of the meal. So the wine of before the meal exempts the wine after the meal. Similarly, regarding the papiros, the different various appetizers and supplements. Berech al paperes shalfnei hamazon. One makes a bracha on the paperes prior to the main part of the meal. By doing so, he covers and he exempts patos paperes ach hamazon. He need not make a bracha again on the paperes that will be served after the main portion of the meal. Continues the Mishnah. Berech al pas. One makes a bracha on the actual bread, patos paperes. He certainly exempts the paperes that will be eaten during the main portion of the meal. Ala paperes, but if he only makes a bracha on the paperes, on the supplements, like patos pas, it's not considered to be subordinate to the pas is the ikar, and therefore a bracha on the paperes does not exempt the bread. Now obviously we're speaking about that they both have the same bracha. As Tosfos points out, the paperes here is speaking about some sort of bread which is served in a way that is not really considered to be the main, the ideal, the typical bread. It's considered to be paperes. Therefore, when one makes a bracha on the paperes, he's not exempting, he's not being mitzi the pas. He doesn't exempt the masa kedera as well. That's some sort of cereal made from grains. The Gemara will explain exactly what is the meaning of Beis Shammai's statement that we do not exempt the masa kedera. So, in conclusion, Rashi described the meal of days gone by in the following manner. Before the actual meal, before the main portion of the meal, they used to bring all kinds of entrees and appetizers. They used to drink wine. There was the yayin, there was the paperes. After the main portion of the meal was over, they would bring again wine and paperes. So one is required to make a bracha on these items. So when he makes a bracha on the wine before the meal, that exempts the wine of after the meal as well. Similar thing regarding the paperes, he makes a bracha on the paperes prior to the meal, that exempts the paperes that will come later on after the meal. Regarding during the actual meal, so that depends. If he makes a bracha on the pas on the bread, certainly that exempts the paperes since it's subordinate to the pas. But in the reverse, it doesn't work. Continues the Mishnah. If several people are sitting down le'echel to eat, can one make a bracha on behalf of all? Each one needs to make a bracha on his own. Hesebu, but if they do hesebu, they recline. That indicates a kviyas suda. They're uniting together into one established meal. And in that case, they can do so. They can make a bracha, one on behalf of all. Echad mevarach l'kulan, one can make a bracha on behalf of all. Tosfos points out that nowadays, our custom is not to recline, except for Pesach at night. So in our case, a kviyas suda is determined by all the members sitting around the table. The sitting position is considered to be like a haseba, and when we sit around the table, we are joining together as one, and indeed one fellow can make a bracha on behalf of all the attendees. Continues the Mishnah along the same topic. When they were served wine inside during the meal, in that case, each one should make a bracha on his own. The Gemara will explain why they don't exempt each other, but rather each one should make a bracha individually. But regarding the wine that comes after the main portion of the meal, then one can indeed make the bracha on behalf of all of them. Continues the Mishnah, this person that is being mitzi, that exempting all of them with the brichas hayayin, he also will be the one to exempt them. Al ha-mugmar, they used to take incense and burn it, and the bracha of Beirei Atzeh B'Samim will be recited by him on behalf of all of them. Even though the mugmar is only brought much later, elo achar suda, only after the suda, after Brachos hamazon. So perhaps you would think there's an interruption between him exempting them on the yayin and the mugmar, so perhaps it doesn't have to be the same individual doing both. Nevertheless, Mishnah says this is the proper way to do things. The person that exempted them with the Brachos hayayin should be the one to be mighty them also on the Brachos b'samim, on the mugmar, after the suda. Continues the Gemara. Amar Rabba bar B'Chana Rav Yochanan. Lo yishanu. This halacha mentioned in the Mishnah that the bracha on wine, which is served lifnei hamazon, that bracha exempts the yayin that will be served la'achar hamazon, before benching. That is only lo yishanu. That is only said ela b'shabbosos v'yamim tovim, only on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Why? Why is Shabbos and Yom Tov different? Hoyel, since the Adam Kaiveya Sudas Halayayin. Because during the Suda of Shabbos and Yom Tov, it is the derech, is the custom to be Kaiveya Sudas Halayayin. Says Rashi, the Daiti Leishav Achar Hamazon Malishtos. It is his intention to linger around after the main portion of the meal and to drink more wine. Therefore, when he makes the bracha initially on the wine before the meal, his das, his kavanah, his intention is to exempt the wine that will be coming later after the meal. Aval b'shoymes hashana, but on an ordinary day of the week, mevarech al kol kos v'kos. He needs to make a bracha separately on each cup of wine. Why? Because it is not the derech necessary to bring wine after the meal is over, and therefore the initial intention wasn't necessary to exempt this wine, because it's not usual, it's not customary to bring more wine. So when he receives more wine after the meal, it is kinimlach, Rashi says. It is as though he's changed his mind. He has now decided to drink more wine, and was never included in the initial bracha. It's Ranami, Amar Rabba Bamari, Amar Shubal Levi. Lo Yishanu, the halach of the Mishnah only said, El B'Shabbat Yom Tovim, U'B'Isha Shadam Yotzim Beis HaMerchetz. Also, not only Shabbos Yantiv, also when is it customary to drink lots of wine? When one comes out of the Beis HaMerchetz. U'B'Shas HaKazas Adam, when a person has blood let from him. So in those times, it is customary to drink a lot of wine. He establishes a meal around wine, and he intends to drink a lot of wine. So certainly, the halacha of the Mishnah applies to those cases as well. On Shabbos and Yantiv, even B'stama, even if he has no explicit intention, since it is customary to drink a lot of wine on Shabbos and Yantiv. Similarly regarding the Beis HaMerchetz and HaKazas Adam, even the Stam Das, even when one doesn't have explicit machshava, nevertheless, it's all included in the initial bracha of the Yain Kodim HaMasin. But Aval B'Shoymes Hashana, on an ordinary day, Mevarech al Kol Kos V'Kos, you need to make a bracha on each cup of wine separately. Continues the Gemara, Rabba B'Amari Ikal Be'Rabba. Rabba B'Amari came to visit Rava B'Choil in the weekdays. Chazid the Baruch L'fnei HaMazon. He saw that he made a bracha on the wine prior to the mazon, prior to the meal. V'had the Baruch L'achar Mazon. And then when the wine was served after the meal, he made a bracha again. Amalei Yasher. Strengthen yourself. This is true. I agree. You're doing properly. V'chein Amar Rav Shmuel Levi. Indeed, this concurs with the shita of Shmuel Levi mentioned earlier, that during a weekday meal, one is meant to make a bracha on the wine before the Suda, and again on the wine after the Suda. Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef, Iklu Ebe Abaye b'Yomtiv. He came to visit Abaye on Yomtiv. Chazid the Baruch al Kol Kos V'Kos. He noticed that he made a bracha on every kos, and he didn't hold that the wine that arrives later is included, is covered by the initial bracha, even though it was Yomtiv. Do you not concur, do you not hold this ruling of Shmuel Levi, that on a Shabbos for Yomtiv, it's all included, because the custom is to drink a lot of wine? I am not accustomed to drinking a lot of wine, and therefore I'm a nimlach. Nimlach means I changed my mind, meaning it is a new machshava, is a new intention. It was never included in the initial intention, because it's not my derech to drink a lot of wine, even on Yom Tov. So in summary, the Gemara teaches us that the halacha mentioned in the Mishnah, when one makes a bracha on wine prior to the mazon, he is being moitzi, he covers the wine that will be served after the mazon. That is only in certain cases. Shabbos, Yom Tov, when he's going out from the Beis HaMerchetz, when he had hakazah done to him. In those cases, even b'stama, even if he has no explicit intention, the assumption is that he will drink a lot of wine, and it's all included in the initial bracha. However, on an ordinary weekday, that is not the case. It is considered to be nimlach, considered like a new intention, like a new machshava, and is not included in the initial berachas hayayin. The Gemara is mechadish to us that even on Yom Tov, if one knows that he's not accustomed to drinking lots of wine, in that case he also has the halacha of nimlach and needs to make a separate bracha. Tosfos points out that even during the weekdays, if one knows, if one has explicit kavan intention to be kaveh sudas halayayin, to have an abundance of wine during the suda, in that case, since he has explicit kavana, this suda has the same status as a Shabbos and Yom Tov suda, and all the wine is included in the initial bracha of Hagafen. Continues the Gemara, they asked the following question: what would be in the following scenario? If wine was brought to them, was served to them during the actual meal. Rashi explains it wasn't the custom for them to drink lots of wine during the meal, but rather only a little bit in order to aid in the digestion process. Lishrois achila shebemeyav. So, in a case where no wine was brought before the meal, but only wine during the actual meal, and they made a bracha v'agafen on this wine, as we learned yesterday. When wine is served even during a meal, the bracha v'agafen is required since wine is significant, as a davar chashuv. So they made a bracha on this wine. Now the question is as follows: Ma'u sheyifters hayayin shlach hamazon. Will this exempt from bracha the wine that is served after the meal? We learned in the Mishnah that when one makes a bracha on the yayin shelifnei hamazon, the wine that is served prior to the meal, that bracha exempts, that covers the wine that comes after the meal. What about in a case where no wine was brought before the meal, only during the meal? He made a bracha agafen. Is that bracha going to cover, is going to be mighty the wine that comes after the meal? Now why there should be any difference here? So Gemara will explain. If you'll suggest, let's take a look at the Mishnah and bring a proof from the halach in the Mishnah. It says in the Mishnah, Berech al yain shlifnei hamazon, you made a bracha on the wine prior to the meal. That exempts the wine that comes after the meal. Perhaps we have a proof from there that once you make a bracha agafen once, that covers everything. It says, no, there's a difference. We can make a distinction between the case in the Mishnah, where one is making a bracha on wine which is served prior to the meal. That certainly will exempt, we might see, the wine that comes after the meal. Why? Says the Gemara, Mishum, because the zel lishtois is zel lishtois. They're both coming for drinking purposes. They're coming for their beverage value. The wine brought prior to the meal is coming lishtois to drink, to be drunk. And therefore, the bracha hagafen recite on that wine, the yain of shtia, the yain of drinking, will certainly exempt the wine that is served after the meal. That too is coming lishtois for drinking purposes, for its beverage value. They're both classified in the same category. Therefore, one is mighty the other. But over here it's different. Avaloch, in our case, where no wine is served prior to the meal, merely during the meal. Now, why is he drinking the wine during the meal? Not lishtes, not to drink, not for its beverage value. The zel lishtes, zel lishrois. He's coming to drink it for lishrois, to aid in digestion. Therefore, this is not so significant. This is not a chashav enough drinking, and it will not exempt the wine that is coming after the meal, which is coming for the purpose of lishtois, to be drunk, for its beverage value. Therefore, perhaps there's a difference. The case in our Mishnah, where he makes a bracha on the wine prior to the meal, which is coming for shtia, can exempt the wine that is coming after the meal for the sake of shtia. They're both in the same category. However, in our case, where the bracha was recited on the wine during the meal, which is coming lishrois merely to aid in digestion, that is not so significant. And therefore, it cannot be moitzi, it cannot exempt a more significant drinking of wine after the meal, which is coming for the sake of shtia, for its beverage value. That is more significant of an experience, and that requires an additional bracha. Perhaps, we're not meant to make these distinctions. Wine is wine, hagafen is hagafen. Once you make a bracha hagafen on the wine during the meal, that exempts all the wines that follow subsequently. Now, of course, Tosfos points out that certainly, when one makes a bracha on the wine koydem asuda, which is coming for drinking purposes, lishtais, that certainly exempts any wine that follows, even the wine during the suda, which is coming lishtais to aid in digestion, because that wine is on a lower level. So certainly the bracha on the wine which is coming lishtais before the meal will exempt the wine during the meal. Tosfos explains that Al Gemara, rather speaking about a case where there was no wine brought, there was no wine served prior to the meal. The first wine brought was only during the meal, which was merely lishrois to aid in digestion. Therefore, the Gemara's question is in place. Can the hagafen on this wine exempt the wine after the meal, which is coming for a more significant purpose of shtia? So we have a machlekes. Rav Amar Poiter, yes, indeed, the wine during the meal will exempt the wine after the meal. Rav Kana Amar Eina Poiter, no, it does not exempt. Rav Nachman Amar Poiter, Rav Sheshes Amar Eina Poiter, Rav Huna, Rav Yehuda, V'kol Tamida, the Rav Amri Eina Poiter. Okay, so we have a machlekes in this regard. Eisvi Rav Nachman, how could Rav Nachman say that it does exempt, it does cover it, it does pater it? We have halacha as follows. The Mishnah tells us that if they were served wine during the meal, each one makes a bracha individually. If it comes after the meal, one will make a bracha on behalf of all of them. So we see clearly that even when wine was served during the meal, they are required to make an additional bracha on the wine achar mazon. Apparently, one doesn't exempt the other, since the first one is lishrois and the second one is lishtois. So this is a kasha on your shita. How could you say that one exempts the other? Amar Leitzer of Nachman responded, Hachi Kamar. This is what the Mishnah means to say. Im loy bolem yain b'tei chamazon ela la'achar mazon echad nevarach l'kulam. The Mishnah is speaking about two different situations, two different halachas. The first halacha the Mishnah is telling you, when wine is served during the meal, each one makes a bracha individually. The Mishnah continues with a different situation. Perhaps there was no wine served during the meal, only after the meal. In that case, the Mishnah tells us that one can make the bracha on behalf of all of them. But certainly in a case where wine was actually served during the meal, and Hagafen was decided on that wine, that bracha covers the wine that will come after the meal as well. So in summary, when one makes a bracha, Hagafen on wine, can he exempt the other wine? So that depends. When one makes a bracha on wine lifnei hamazon, prior to the mazon, that will exempt the wine that comes during the meal. Why? As Tais explained, since the first one is coming lishtois, the second one is coming lishrois. So certainly, the more significant hagafen of lishtois will be will exempt the wine that comes during the meal, which is merely coming to aid in digestion. What about if one makes a bracha lifnei hamazon, which is on wine that is coming lishtois? Does that exempt wine that comes la'achar hamazon, that is also lishtois? So on that we have a difference. It depends if it's Shabbos v'Yontif, if it's merchatz coming out of the bathhouse, or after bloodletting. In that case, yes indeed, the first bracha covers all the wines that come later. Even b'stam, even if he had no explicit intention to bring more wine, since during those meals it is customary to bring more wine, so it's all included in the initial bracha. Similarly, Taisus points out that if one is krivei sudas al yayin, one establishes meal around wine, he intends on drinking lots of wine. So even during a weekday meal, it is all covered in the initial bracha of Hagafen. However, if one is nimlach, one changes his mind, he diverts his attention from wine, he has no intention of drinking more wine, and then he changes and decides to drink more wine. In that case, he needs to make another bracha. And as the Gemara pointed out, this applies even to Shabbos v'Yontif. If he explicitly had no kavanah, if he wasn't accustomed to drink, he knows he's not going to drink more, and he decides to drink more later, he needs to make a new bracha of Hagafen. And finally, regarding the case of wine that was served b'seich hamazon for the first time, that wine is coming lishrois, to aid in digestion. In that case, is the Hagafen going to exempt the wine that comes after the meal, which is lishtois for the sake of drinking with a beverage value? We have a machlekes in the Gemara. Some say yes, it exempts, and some say it doesn't. Continues the Gemara. Birach al pas pater sa parperes. The Mishnah said if one makes a bracha on the bread, that exempts the parperes, the appetizers, the supplements. Ala parperes le pater sa pas. Makes a bracha on the parperes, that doesn't exempt the bread. It doesn't exempt even a cereal, a grain dish. So the Gemara will analyze what exactly is Beis Shammai referring to. Let's analyze. Let's try to understand. They ask the following question: what does Beis Shammai mean? Beis Shammai areisha pligi or dilma seifa pligi? Is Beis Shammai referring to the first part of the Tanakama statement or on the second part? As the Gemara will explain. The Tanakama stated as follows: Beirach ala pas pater sa parperes. One makes a bracha on bread, he exempts the parperes, the additives, the appetizers, the supplements, even though these items are not really coming l'mazayin, they're not the primary satiators. They're additives, they're supplements. Nevertheless, the bracha on the pas exempts them. The koshke masekeder, certainly it will exempt, the bracha on the bread will exempt the bracha of masekeder, a cereal, which is coming for the actual suda lazan to satiate. It's a filler. So they're both very similar items, and certainly the bracha on the bread will exempt it. On that, Beis Shammai is coming to dispute. Beis Shammai is coming to say, no. Not only does the bracha on the pas, on the bread, not exempt the paperes, since it's not related to the bread, it's a different type of item, it's in a different class. So the bracha on the pas will not exempt it. Even on the cereal, which is very similar to bread. It's a grain. Perhaps I would think that the bracha on the bread will exempt it. No, nami le patra will not exempt it. So Beis Shammai holds that the bracha on the bread will not exempt anything, not the papyrus or even the Maaseh Kedera. So that was the first approach. That Beis Shammai is referring to the Tanakama's halacha, that the bracha on the bread exempts, says Beis Shammai it doesn't exempt. Oidemo perhaps, a seifa pligi, Beis Shammai is disagreeing with the latter part of the statement. The Tanakama said as follows: the bracha on the papyrus does not exempt the bread. It can't exempt the bread since they are two different classifications. The papyrus is appetizer, has no relation, is not close enough in identity to bread. It can't pater the bread. But of a Maaseh Kedera pater. But the bracha on the papyrus will exempt the Maaseh Kedera, the cereal, which is also there as an additive, as a supplement. On that Beis Shammai is disagreeing and says, Afilu Maaseh Kedera nami le pater. The bracha on the papyrus will not pater even the cereal, even the Maaseh Kedera. So that is the shita Beis Shammai, that even though they're close in identity, they're separate items, they have no relations, one can't exempt the other. Teiku, we leave this as a question. So in conclusion, we have two approaches in the Gemara regarding the Machlokes Tanakama Beis Shammai. The first approach is, the Tanakama tells us that the bracha on the bread exempts the papyrus and the Maaseh Kedera. Beis Shammai disagrees on both ends. The bracha will not exempt either one, not the papyrus nor the Maaseh Kedera. The second approach in the Gemara is that the Machlokes is regarding the second half of the statement. The Tanakama tells us the bracha on the papyrus will not exempt the pas, but will exempt the Maaseh Kedera. On that, Beis Shammai says no, not only can it exempt the pas, but can it exempt the Maaseh Kedera. Continues the Gemara. We learned that halacha yoshvin kol echad ve'echad nevarach la'atzmai. If they're sitting, then each one needs to make a bracha on his own. It's not considered to be a combined meal. But if they recline his seibu, then it's a combined meal, and one can make a bracha on behalf of all. Says the Gemara, his seibu if they recline, then it is considered to be a combined, unified meal experience. Loi hei seibu loi, but if without reclining it is not. V'ramini, we have a brisa which seems to indicate otherwise. 10 people walking on the road. Even if they're all eating from the same loaf of bread, they need to make a bracha individually. It is not considered to be a combined kviyasuda, and they need to make individual brachas. But they sit down to eat. Even though each one has his own loaf of bread, nevertheless, it is a combined meal experience. One will make the bracha on account of all of them. The Brachos says, as long as they sit, even they don't recline. So we see that sitting is the determinant factor, and we do not require a seiba reclining, unlike the Mishnah. Ordinarily, we require a seiba to combine them into one meal experience. This is speaking about Kigoyin, for instance. The army, they declared, they announced, let's go and eat bread, the plan on that place. So since they predetermined, they planned, they schemed together, they had the intention, they spoke out that they will go sit together, that makes it a combined meal experience. And even if they merely sit without reclining, it's considered to be a kviyasuda together, and one may make the bracha on behalf of all of them. Says the Gemara, continues more with this story. When Rav passed away, the students followed him, they accompanied him, they buried him in a different city, and on the way back, Yehadri, when they returned from the Levaya, Amri, they said, let's go eat our meal on the riverbank of Nahar Dank, the river called Dank. When they completed their meal, and they contemplated, they weren't sure, can one make the bracha on behalf of all of them? The Mishnah says that when they recline together, they can make a bracha, one can make a bracha on behalf of all. Is it dafka? Is it specifically if there was a reclining? But merely sitting does not accomplish that. And in our case, since we were just sitting together without heseba, it is not considered to be a combined meal. Dilma perhaps. Kivan the Amri, since we declared and we said, let's go eat bread in that location. That is equivalent, that is as though we have reclined, since we came with the same achshava, with the same intention. It was a pre-planned experience, therefore it's considered to be a joint meal. What is the halacha? They didn't know how to conclude. They didn't have clarity. And that made them very sad. Rav Adabava got up. He had done kriya, he had torn his clothing in mourning on Rav's ptira, and now he flipped around his garment, he put the torn part behind him, and he brought in front of him a whole piece of cloth so that he can do kriya again. V'kora kriya achrina, and he tore again in mourning. And he declared, he said, Omar, noch nafshe de Rav, our Rebbe Rav passed away. Ubrachos mezoina like amrinan. We don't even know the halachas of Brachos Hamazon, of the brach on food. Look what happened. We lost our Rebbe. We're ignorant. And he was very sad. And he made another kriya because of the lack of clarity regarding the halacha. Until an elder came along and he taught them the following halacha. He presented them with the stira, with the contradiction between the Mishnah that tells us that they are required to recline, and the Brisa, which seems to indicate that sitting is merely sufficient. So he made that contradiction. And he said, look, apparently the resolution is as follows, that it depends whether it was predetermined, pre-planned. Ordinarily we require Haseba. They recline, so that it's considered to be a joint common meal experience. However, Kivan the Amri, once they declared and they said, we will go together and eat bread on that occasion, that is equivalent that is equivalent to reclining. Therefore, in your experience as well, the fact that you've done this, pre-planned, and you've spoken out, that this is your intention to go eat together, that combines you into one joint meal experience. And therefore, indeed, you may make a bracha on behalf of the entire group.